Do you want to learn how to make process improvements in your organization? Our next guest has experience from boots to the boardroom, so stick around. You can hear how she spoke up, made process improvements, and now she's helping lots of organizations around North America. Okay, today we're chatting with Nicole Ivers. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You have a really interesting background and experience, so tell me about that and your role today.
Sure. My role right now is the Global Head of Safety, Health, and Environment for Brookfield Properties Logistics, and I also oversee ESG. I am now on the owner and operator side, but I came from working directly for general contractors and also doing construction management in the Middle East for many years, working on the World Cup.
Amazing project. I watched that with my family here. I heard a rumor that there were a lot of people that died on that. Can you dispel that rumor for me?
Yeah, I think that was definitely a lot of rumors associated with the number of people that would die and be injured working at the World Cup. I could definitely say that it was much, much less than what the media reported. And the systems that we had in place over there were incredibly strong, and the expectations for safety were incredibly strong, right from the very top of the country. So it was very, very important. Anybody that says something didn't care about safety just really doesn't have any idea what went into making that thing.
Good. It's really good to hear that it came from the top as well. So tell me a bit about the sectors and the regions. You mentioned the Middle East. Are there any specific sectors that you specialize in?
Yes, so definitely working on mega projects in the Middle East was a huge learning opportunity and working with different cultures. We had contractors from Korea, China, other areas in the Middle East, American, Portuguese, a lot of different areas and cultures that you're working with, different languages, different perceptions of safety. It was a really great opportunity. And now in my role here globally, we build all over the world. So I'll actually be going to China not too much later this year.
Nice. I imagine that all of those different cultures and personas really do have their own opinion on safety. So tell me a bit about how you tried to find a common language between them.
Well, you really got to rely on people to be able to translate effectively. The language of safety is more than just rules and don't do this and do that. So the communication is definitely key over there.
Got it. So internationally, is ISO 45000 the type of standard that you apply to? And if not, what are the standards for international and how do they sort of match up with what we do in North America?
Yeah, definitely overseas, ISO is much more commonly used by contractors, both here in the US. It's not really something that is seen amongst contractors here. You're still working to the same, best practices and procedures, but overseas there's definitely a little bit more accountability for, maintaining that certification and being audited on it.
Right. And then, so what about your own, so Brookfield's policies and procedures, and then you go international, do you have a different set of policies and procedures, and how do you weave in your work to what you do in North America versus those international projects?
Well, one of the things that Brookfield does that is different than a lot of owners and developers is that, we're really looking at the influence that we have in the marketplace and how we can really strive for a much higher safety performance. Because we are the owner, we can really demand the level that we want. So we have standards, we call them physical health and safety standards for Brookfield, and that applies to everywhere that we operate. So that standard is similar to China and to the US, that's just kind of translated for, the local construction. But what that does is it really drives people to look beyond compliance. Look beyond just basic rules and regulations, and how can we actually get a higher level of safety. And And I think as an owner, we have that obligation that if we can influence our contractors and influence safety and wellness for the workforce out there that are building for us, that are occupying the buildings that we build, we're doing our part, and it's important.
Nice. Yeah, I've always been interested to understand how the owner's perspective on safety differs or is in parallel to the contractor's perspective. So maybe you could just touch on some of the high-level goals. So are there specific safety ratings that you're seeking from your contractors and how they merge in together?
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest things that we really watch is the human and operational performance philosophy of safety, which is really different than a lot of the contractors are used to. That the compliance-based safety is just basically a minimum expectation. I shouldn't have to tell my contractors that you're contractually required to be in compliance with the law, right?
Right.
So what we want to do is really educate them on levels of safety that look at human error and looking at the way they're doing their work and, how can we make that safer? How can we change our methods of work to reduce exposure to the employees? So things like, where we can build parapets onto our buildings, 39 inches or higher, so that we never have to worry about, edge protection systems or workers wearing harnesses when they're working on the roof. Where can we build our roof differently so that we're assembling sections on the ground so that the workers are not exposed to heights for as long as they might have needed to be before. So that's where we're really taking safety as looking at how can we build better and safer and design in a safer way.
Got it. And so you're looking at a lot of the operational things so that it's more about once the property is up and running, how do you also keep the operational aspects of that business safe? So that's great. Tell me a bit about how ESG has changed and how that weaves into EHS. So just these are different acronyms. ESG is really sort of the buzzword these days. How is that coming into safety?
Yeah, it absolutely is. I was just having this conversation the other day because there's so many safety professionals out there that don't realize that ESG is basically going to fall under their realm of duties very soon if it's not already. So incorporating the sustainability side right from the very beginning, we're looking at how we're building and what materials we're using that have lower carbon content. How can we design to use those materials and reduce our impact? We're building LEED certified all of our developments. We're using things like LED lighting, which in the long run reduces the amount of maintenance and just simply changing out light bulbs at night. So we're looking at how we can incorporate this into the overall lifespan and from construction through use. And lowering our carbon emissions is very, very important to our business.
Got it. So then tell me a bit about how the EHS side works. What works as an effective program within your organization? How do you maintain those programs at a high level? It sounds like there's a lot of work to weave in the ESG side of it, and you already have your hands full with the EHS side. So tell me more about the EHS side and the program that you run there.
Sure, it really is. I can do as many documents and procedures and books of rules, and it means nothing unless you have leadership that is really embracing it and setting that example from the absolute top. And that's what we have at Brookfield. We have our very top leadership saying that this is what we're going to do as a company. It's the right thing to do. We can influence in a good way, and this is the expectation. So everybody's part of the program. It's not just me telling people this is what we have to do, but it's talking to them about what are our risks out there? What is the risk to our real estate managers that are going out and looking at buildings to purchase? What is the risk to them? It's not just always about constructing buildings.
Right.
So they tell me what they need, and we help to facilitate that together.
Excellent. And then it sort of leads me to the culture question. Sounds like you have really good buy-in from top management, but culture, often starts on the ground, and that's where the majority of it is as well. How do you get from the field teams to top management and really influence that culture across the entire company? Such a huge organization as well.
Yeah, and it's really about how we filter that message all the way down. So, we all know that the message does get lost at some point in most organizations between what the top leadership is saying to their frontline leadership versus what the workers are hearing, which is typically, get the job done, right?
Yeah.
So that's where that communication and just reinforcing it over and over and over again, being involved. If we have an incident occur at one of our job sites, we're there engaged in what happened, why did that make sense at that time? It's not about blame. We need to take all the blame out of safety. Just looking at what were the situation requirements for this to happen and what can we do differently?
One of the simple things you mentioned there, taking blame out. We've talked to a lot of people in your position, and one of the best things we keep hearing is changing unsafe conditions and near misses to good catch, or something of that sort of phrase that just changes the narrative and the mindset around it. So I would agree there. I would just challenge our viewers to put some comments in there. What things have you done to improve your culture? Put your comments below. So tell me a bit about technology. How does technology weave into EHS? What have you seen work well and not work well?
Yeah, technology is great, and there's so much evolving out there right now. The type of technology that I have used and really like are things not necessarily always specifically about safety, but things that give us a better quality product in the first place. So, laser scanning and making sure that the guys that are doing the work are doing it right the first time, because where we have a lot of injuries is often associated with rework,
right? Which
is really just an error. So the more times you have to redo something, the more chance you have for something going wrong or an injury happening. So, that's the thing about safety, is that safety and quality go so hand in hand. So the technology that we use, it's really a side product or side benefit to safety. The other big technology, which again is not brain surgery, but drones. We've used drones in so many different situations that has eliminated the need for workers to go up at heights or in lifts. And we can see things that we just don't have to actually be physically present for anymore.
Got it. As a mechanical engineer, I've been literally riding on top of a lift in the lift shaft of the Sydney Centrepoint Tower, and inspecting sprinklers inside the shaft there, and I really don't think that was considered safe. So I won't name names on that one. So tell me a little bit about how you keep up to date with technology. So, there's a lot of momentum with technology in construction in many ways, both Contech and PropTech. How do you keep up to date? What resources do you lean on?
Well, I am a constant learner. I try to learn something new every single day. So I am constantly on LinkedIn and, whatever conferences that I can be involved in, reading books, magazines. I think that that's really the key to a safety professional. You have to be out there learning what's out there, what new ways you can do things. It's definitely not the traditional safety anymore.
Right. Switch gears to risk. How does safety relate to risk? What do you think works well in identifying and mitigating risks? Your role is executive level. How do you make sure that those risks and processes translate again to the field teams in what they do day to day?
I think a lot of it comes from just having discussions and talking about the type of work. I've been fortunate that I've had a lot of different types of building experience, and unfortunately, I've seen a lot of things go wrong. So I've been able to learn from a lot of different things to know what can go wrong, even if that contractor hasn't seen it happen that way before. The other thing is that I really look at where human error comes into play. So when we make things very complicated for workers, we know that they're going to take shortcuts. We know that they're going to find easier ways to do it. So I would typically look at the work from that view and think, okay, well, how are they really going to do it though? So I think that the risks in construction are not all that new. We pretty much know what risks are there. We know the hazards, and we know that people are continuously being hurt in the same ways by the same things. So the key is really looking at how can we do that differently and get different results.
Got it. And then so in what ways do you, as a safety professional, make sure that your policies and procedures are heard by the field? So it's one thing to write them in the office, it's another thing to actually have somebody tick the boxes in the field. How do you actually make that connection? Is it technology? Is it a combination of meetings? Do you incentivize your superintendents? Like how do you make the connection?
I think it's just being engaged. As the owner, we do a lot of job walks, we participate in meetings, we'll go on a all-hands, safety meeting that we like the contractors to do on a monthly basis, gets all the workforce involved. So us being there and showing that we are engaged and that we're part of the team really helps the contractors to know that they have our support to do the right thing. Having transparent conversations about, why do you have a ladder there instead of a lift? Why are you doing it this way? If it's something that we can help influence, for example, we want them to have stair towers instead of ladders to the roof. If that's something that we can help facilitate, we'll do that. We just have to have a conversation.
We've heard of some contractors that have eliminated ladders altogether from their job sites. So that was a bold and interesting move. Tell me about an initiative that you have implemented that has had a successful change.
Like they are, you just mentioned ladders, and that's definitely something that I am a big proponent of, is eliminating ladders where you can implement a safer alternative. One of the downfalls is when you take all the ladders away and workers don't have what they need, that pushes them to start working off of buckets and stacking materials.
Right. So
you don't want to create a bigger problem by eliminating something, but where you have a smart ladder program where people have options, what is the safest tools to use? So one of the things that in a past project of mine, they had a job built ladders on the project as main access points. And a lot of people were exposed to potential falls by having to access that multiple times a day. And eventually somebody did fall off that ladder and they were injured, and it ended up being a pretty costly incident. So we were able to show that we can take those ladders away, put it in stair towers for a lot less than what that injury cost. And from that point on, that contractor didn't have any falls from ladders at those main access points. So just something as it's not entirely innovative, but it's simple substitution that has a great big impact.
Sorry to all the ladder salesmen out there. We've just damaged your revenue. I'm keen to hear from the viewers what changes you have implemented that have improved safety. Leave your comments below. Nicole, so what about executives? How do they measure success and improvement? What are the big things that they're looking for and trying to quantify through EHS?
Well, I think everybody's always going to have metrics, leading and lagging indicators that we're going to measure as part of our overall program. One of the things that Brookfield is looking to do is to eliminate serious safety incidents. And those are fatal and life-altering incidents. That is our main objective. So we're not looking at, finger cut. We're looking at, we don't want anybody to die or be permanently disabled on any of our projects. So that's where our focus really is. So obviously that is one of the metrics that we're going to follow, and specifically potential serious safety incidents, which are basically like near misses. So
Right.
things that happened that could have resulted in something serious. We look very closely at that, and obviously looking at the three of those and repeat is going to be something that we go to determine the effectiveness in our program. But we also look at the actions that our senior leadership are taking. Now, are they out in the field engaging on safety? Are they setting that example? So we like to measure things like that too, to get people out there and comfortable talking about it all the time.
Got it. What about insurance? This is sort of my last question. How do we weave all this in? And there's a lot of insurance companies that are getting involved in technology, starting consortiums and really helping with the narrative. How do you see technology influencing insurance, and how does your role work with insurance?
Well, now that I'm the owner, I'm a little bit more disconnected from the everyday insurance and work compensation requirements. Like I was when I was the general contractor, but yeah, our insurance companies want us to be safe. Everybody benefits, both financially and ethically, from having a safe workforce. So obviously, the more injuries that you're going to have, the higher your insurance rates are going to go. Owners typically look at those numbers to decide, they want to give you work. So if those ratings are too high, you may not get work from a company, but will not get work from a company
Right.
like Brookfield if you're not performing safely. So contractors especially would benefit from technology and improving their safety in many ways. And usually the insurance companies are very supportive of that and will offer a lot of support and resources to companies.
Excellent. I do have one more question around what is a certified industrial hygienist? That was a new term for me today, so maybe you could tell us.
Sure. So I actually started as an industrial hygienist before I went into traditional safety. So if you think of safety as everything that can hurt you from the outside, industrial hygiene is what can hurt you from the inside. So the things that you can inhale, things that are for your skin, the vibration. So industrial hygienists typically work a lot more in manufacturing and factories, places where people have a lot more respiratory hazards, asbestos, silica. Silica definitely is one of the areas that probably still work a lot in traditional safety.
There's a huge number of deaths through those, especially silica dust, that are longer term. They're not really the immediate daily impact. Nicole, it's been fantastic to have you on the show. Your perspective is really great to hear from the executive level on a really major organization. I know you had some experience in instructing too. I'm sure you've weaved that into this conversation. So thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So if you want to see more shows like this, please make sure you like and subscribe. See you next time.